And it's like you asking me, it's like I asking you, you agree that slavery was bad and the greatest indignity to humankind. Why not pay reparation? Why not value reparation and pay reparation today? The tens of billions of dollars
But Mr. President, you don't allow slavery to continue just because there were certain contracts that were signed. You, as a politician, have made a great noise about demanding, for example, reparations for slavery from the United Kingdom. And yet here we are in a new era for an independent Guyana, where you're saying to me, you know what, it's true, we are being exploited. The extractive industries are exploiting our people. And you just sit here and you take it.
Because after 300 years, the British have left Caribbean peoples illiterate and unhealthy. After 300 years of taking their labor, exploiting their labor and enriching themselves to build themselves into the most powerful nation on earth, they have left the Caribbean peoples illiterate and unhealthy. Which means that the governments today now have to clean up illiteracy and clean up the ill health. Do not have the resources to do it. I like to use Jamaica as an example. After 300 years, the British left Jamaica with 80% of its people illiterate. When Jamaica went into independence, in 1962, 80% of the people were functionally illiterate. And then you say to Jamaica, with their 2 million people, go and develop. There is no nation on this planet using any method of economic development that could transform a society with 80% illiteracy into a developed nation in 50 years. It is impossible. Because from the illiteracy springs a whole range of other conditions. From the illiteracy springs a whole range of other conditions that undermine the best thrust for development. You have to deal first with removing illiteracy. Then you have to move to deal with health, because health and illiteracy are linked. We now have in the Caribbean an explosion of chronic diseases. We have 60% of the black people in the Caribbean over the age of 60 have hypertension or diabetes, or both. Now, if you take the single criterion of chronic diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, if you take that simple criterion, the black people in the Caribbean are the unhealthiest people on the planet. And you have to understand that. On the one hand, we are watching U.S.A. Bolt and we're watching the Caribbean athletes. We're watching the Caribbean with an image of being the most athletic people on the planet. But beneath that image of these super sportsmen and women is the hard reality that we are now the sickest people on the planet. In every black family in the Caribbean, hypertension and diabetes is endemic and congenital. In my family, almost everybody over 60 has hypertension and diabetes. And it's the same for your families, for all of our families. There is an explosion of ill health in the Caribbean. And this is a legacy of slavery and colonization. You take a people, put them on an island for 300 years, give them salt fish and salt pork every day, overwork them, undermine them, sell their children, rape their wives, make them work 20 hours a day, overwork, malnourish, and take them through that stress profile of physical and mental terror. What you get? Hypertension and diabetes. It was the same then as it is now. When your doctor tells you to learn to relax, take out your salt. Well, you can take out the salt, but your foreparents couldn't take it because that's all they had, salt. And now the result is that black people in the Caribbean cannot metabolize salt and sugar. Because for 300 years, that is what we were fed on plantations, plus the stress. So we cannot metabolize salt and sugar, and now we all have a salt and sugar problem, hypertension, diabetes. And we are spending millions of dollars to deal with this. Millions of dollars we are spending to fight hypertension, diabetes in the Caribbean. That is going to be the #1 economic crisis in this region next 20 years unless we find an answer to it. At the University of the West Indies, we've started to do this research. And I can share with you the problem that we're having. The drugs that have been used to treat high blood pressure, for example, have been clinically tried on Caucasian peoples because they are the majority in the markets. The drugs are 95% efficient on the Caucasian body because when you take a hypertension drug, what happens, the drug goes into your body. It sends a message to your cells to open up, let the blood come through. It sends a message, okay. When a white person takes that drug, the cells have a 90% response. When an African black person in the Caribbean takes that drug, we have a 70% response. So we are still dying at a faster rate. When you see people in their 60s and 70s having strokes and heart attacks because of hypertension, it is because the drugs are not working. They're not working as well as they should. Now, the important thing about this is that the drugs work on the Africans. The drugs work on the Africans as well as they work on the Caucasians. But they don't work on us because something happened to us. You see, so when an African in Nigeria and Ghana and so on takes the drugs, she has a good response. When the European take it, they have a good response. But in the Caribbean and in the New World, the Africans over here don't have that response because something happened to us. Because we have been genetically modified during that slavery period.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel once again. My name is Dash Lifestyle. Kindly for watching me for the first time, remember to subscribe, like, share, and also comment. So guys, in today's video, I want us to watch and listen to this interview from Guyana President Isfran. He has come out and sent a powerful message to Western country. He is telling them to pay black people their reparation, to pay some of the African and Caribbean country their reparation. And also, he is revealing how the black people, they are being treated all over the world. So kindly guys, watch this video till the end. Then I'll be back with more.
Forces in an Accra proclamation for former slave-owning nations to get out their wallets and pay slavery reparations. Consider these words of Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo in his opening remarks at the summit. The entire period of slavery meant that our progress economically, culturally, and psychologically was stifled. There are legions of stories of families who were torn apart. You cannot quantify the effects of such tragedies, but they need to be recognized. What forms should this recognition take? Should Western nations apologize formally for the slavery sins of their ancestors? Should they pay reparations? How much? There are thousands of answers to this question. Here is one of those answers from the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Trying to unpick our history is not the right way forward, and is not something we will focus our energies on. Obviously, I disagree. Here is my answer. We must right the wrongs of the past so that we don't repeat those wrongs in future. Reparations are part of righting the wrongs of slavery. What's your answer?
They went to the COP in Dubai.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. Do you know that Guyana has a forest forever that is the size of England and Scotland combined? A forest that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon. A forest that we have kept alive. A forest that we have kept alive.
Does that give you the right? Does that give you the right to release all of this carbon?
Does that give you the right to lecture us on climate change? I am going to lecture you on climate change because we have kept this forest alive that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon that you enjoy, that the world enjoy, that you don't pay us for, that you don't value, that you don't see a value in, that the people of Guyana has kept alive. Guess what? We have the lowest deforestation rate in the world. And guess what? Even with our greatest exploration of the oil and gas resource we have now, we will still be net zero. Guyana will still be net zero. with all our exploration,
couple of points.
Still be net zero.
Powerful words, Mr. President. But
I am not completed as yet. I am not finished as yet. I am just not finished as yet. Because this is the hypocrisy that exists in the world. The world in the last 50 years has lost 65% of all its biodiversity. We have kept our biodiversity. Are you valuing it? Are you ready to pay for it? When is the developed world going to pay for it? Or are you in the pockets? Are you in the pockets of those who have damaged the environment? Are you in the pockets, are you and your system in the pockets of those who destroyed the environment through the Industrial Revolution and now lecturing us? Are you in their pockets? Are you paid by them? Are you paid to keep their message alive? There is no hypocrisy in our position.
The Center for International Environmental Law has described the oil and gas production in Guyana as turning your country from, as you rightly put it, a carbon sink into a potential, quote, carbon bomb. Now, you may say you have every right to exploit that oil and gas.
That is ridiculous. We, even with exploring and production of all our resources, we are going to still be carbon neutral. We are still going to be carbon neutral.
Let me quote to you Greenpeace, who say quite simply, to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, and you know that your own country is one of the most vulnerable to climate change because most of your population lives below sea level.
And we have paid, guess what? Guess what? We have paid for the mitigation. We have paid for the adaptation. We are the ones who have to find revenue. No.
I want to continue. I haven't finished telling you what Greenpeace say.
Yes, but let me tell
Greenpeace say we need to keep the majority of the world's remaining fossil fuels in the ground.
Yeah, Greenpeace can say that.
You're not doing that.
Greenpeace and you can say that. But we need to get resources. And the developing world, we need to get resources to build the sea defenses. We need to get sea defenses to build a drainage and irrigation system. You just said that we're 6 feet below sea level. Who is going to pay for the infrastructure? Who is going to pay for the drainage and irrigation? Who is going to pay for the development and advancement of our country? Are you going to pay? It's not coming from anywhere. It's not coming from Greenpeace or anyone else. Look at the adaptation budget that is required for the developing world. Where is the money coming from?
Isn't there a cynicism here in Georgetown, best expressed by your vice president, who said recently, because there is this climate change imperative to decarbonize, our policy is to get as much oil out of the ground as quickly as possible. Now, he said, that's harsh for those who think that you should be environmentally sound, but that is the reality of it. Those were very honest words from your vice president.
And that is what we are, honest. We are practical.
So you're rushing to get this oil out before any deal is done, to quote Dubai COP, to transition away from oil and gas.
You can say we are rushing, but we are very practical. We have this natural resource, and we are going to aggressively pursue this natural resource because we have to develop our country. We are committed to the development of this region. We have to create the opportunity for our people because no one is bringing that for us. No one is bringing that for us. No one is paying our agenda. No one is paying our agenda.
A final thought about what this means inside your own country. Earlier on, I referred to the fact that 40% of the Guyanese population currently still lives in poverty. And according to U.S.A. from a recent report, Guyana's political instability, which we also referred to, raises concerns that the country is unprepared for its newfound wealth. The tremendous influx of money opens many avenues for corruption. How do you as president ensure that that doesn't happen?
So when we came into government, we said that there are a number of things that we must do. First of all, there must be an arm's length relationship with the oil revenue. So first, the Minister of Finance has to declare all the revenue that comes into the system. If he does not declare that, within 30 days, there's a 10-year mandatory jail term for the Minister of Finance. Secondly, any revenue that is spent from oil and gas must pass through the budgetary process. So it has to go through the Parliament. It has to be debated in the Parliament. It then comes into the system. It is then audited by the Auditor General at the end of what it was intended for. And then, of course, the investment decision is made by a committee that is arm's length away, an independent committee that is arm's length away from. Madam President, Excellencies, if it is, we all agree on ending and preventing wars. If it is, we all agree that the Security Council
requires reform. If it is, we all agree that the international financial system is unfair and unjust to the developing world. And if it is, we all believe in climate, food, and energy security, then what is stopping us from acting? We will all be doomed in the court of conscience for knowing what is right while ignoring what is wrong. Madam President, of the myriad of challenges confronting our world, climate change threatens our very existence, adversely affecting development across all countries. Rising sea levels and temperatures, severe natural disasters, and shifting and extreme weather patterns disrupt agriculture and food security, threaten water supply, and displace communities. These impacts are particularly devastating for small island developing states. Each year, we make the annual pilgrimage to COP, filled with hope for tangible outcomes. And each year, we are regaled and renewed unkept promises are the order of the day. This cycle of hope, followed by disappointment, cannot continue if the Sustainable Development Goals are to be met. We must break free from this pattern of empty pledges. We must unequivocally and immediately fulfill all pledges for the sake of our planet and the future of all its inhabitants. Let me tell you about my country, Guyana, a country that is 83,000 square miles, 86% of which is tropical forests. Guyana has the second highest percentage forest cover on Earth and one of the lowest deforestation rate. Our forest stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon and sequesters more than 153 million tons annually. According to WWF, Guyana is one of the world's most important countries for biodiversity density. It straddles two of the richest biodiversity zones, the Guyana Shield and the Amazon. As a country, we are dedicated to the preservation of this vital global asset. I especially salute the indigenous peoples of Guyana, the Amerindians, who are the foremost stewards of this great natural heritage. We recognize their leadership, and 15% of all revenues earned from carbon sales are directly transferred to our indigenous communities. Madam President, even with our newfound natural resource, oil and gas, it would require less than 20% of sequestered carbon to offset our emissions at maximum output. We have preserved our biodiversity and know its value. We believe it is only fair and just that this global asset be monetized in a fair carbon market. Today, I am pleased to announce the launch of a global biodiversity alliance. We will convene the first Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit in 2025, which will focus on creating a market for biodiversity credits, scaling biodiversity conservation debt swaps, accelerating biodiversity bonds, establishing a blueprint for biodiversity taxonomies, and promoting nature-positive action. We do not make this announcement by mere words. Guyana is also committed to doubling its protected areas by December 2025 and achieving the global biodiversity target of 30% by 2030. These are real solutions that Guyana is putting forward to address the global problem of biodiversity loss. We do not lecture, we lead by example without arrogance. Madam President, according to the UN Food Security and Nutrition Report, in 2023, an estimated 28.9% of the global population, 2.3 billion people, were moderately or severely food insecure. The primary causes were conflict and insecurity, extreme weather events, including those related to El Nino and climate change and economic shocks. To effectively address food insecurity, we must take more concerted action to address its root causes, reducing conflict, mitigating climate change, and enhancing food production and trade in food commodities. By prioritizing peace and climate action, we can create environments where food systems, crops, and livelihoods are not threatened by conflict and weather extremes. In turn, enhancing food production and ensuring fair and efficient trade in food commodities can reduce food insecurity. So too can the full involvement of women and youth. In Guyana's National Agricultural Strategy and Policy, at least 35% of our agro-businesses will be owned by women and 60% by young people. While I've spoken of food insecurity, the global malnutrition rates are also alarming and must be addressed. Nutritious, safe, and sufficient food are crucial to a healthy population. Madam President, the United Nations must continue to be a beacon of hope amidst a turbulent global environment. The theme of this year's assembly, and I quote, "Leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for present and future generations," end of quote, resonates with the vision set out in the United Nations Charter. This vision demands decisive action and enlightened multilateralism. Today, we find ourselves in a world where the quest for peace is met with a defiant echo of conflict, where the promise of sustainable development is eclipsed by the dangerous specter of climate change and food insecurity, and where the dignity of millions of people is trampled upon with impunity. In Ukraine, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of a nation are being violated. Yet, decisive action by the United Nations Security Council remains fettered by the veto. Justice demands that we defend the territorial integrity of all states, large, small, powerful, and weak. Equally concerning is the conflict in Sudan, which rages on with devastating consequences for the people of that country, including famine and mass displacement. This conflict will continue to undermine efforts to achieve lasting peace and sustainable development. This assembly must also condemn the continued oppression and persecution by the Taliban of women and girls in Afghanistan, who face not just lack of access to education and restrictions on their movements, but now even their voices cannot be heard in public. Closer to my home, CARICOM has been actively supporting a Haitian-led process for the restoration of democracy, peace, and stability in Haiti. We welcome the deployment of the UN-authorized multinational security support mission led by Kenya as a crucial step towards stabilizing the security situation. We call on the international community to urgently scale up financing for the MSS and secure its renewed authorization so that the mission can succeed. We must also address the dire humanitarian situation where almost half of Haiti's population suffer from acute hunger, mass displacement, and women and girls are enduring brutal violence, including sexual violence. Guyana is leading CARICOM's effort in mobilizing humanitarian effort and support for Haiti. Excellencies, I'll be reaching out to you for your support. We must stay the course with our Haitian brothers and sisters in their quest for durable peace and sustainable development. The people of Haiti deserve nothing less. Madam President, peace, stability, and safety are no more imperiled than in Gaza. Guyana reiterates its strong condemnation of the October 7 attacks by Hamas on Israel. However, the collective punishment of an entire population, including the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, most of whom are women and children, has long gone beyond the realm of self-defense. As the world watches on helplessly, Israel continues to flout its international obligations, including the orders of the ICJ and successive Security Council resolutions. Instead, the right of self-defense is being used as a weapon of mass extermination, stoking legitimate fears of genocide. No state, large or small, should feel comfortable and safe when such atrocities are allowed to continue with impunity. The war in Gaza must end now. We reiterate our demand for an immediate ceasefire and the release of all hostages and Palestinians illegally detained. Madam President, for more than 75 years, the Palestinian people have been denied their right of self-determination. We must advance the two-state solution as this remains the only viable option for a future where Palestinians and Israelis live in peace and security. Turning to our brothers and sisters in Cuba, their right to development continues to be stymied by the economic embargo. Guyana renews its call for revocation of the embargo and the removal of Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Madam President, the United Nations has a special responsibility for the security of small states. Small states look to multilateralism and the rule of international law to protect them from foreign aggression. Guyana is a small state that has had to contend with aggression from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela for all 58 years of our nationhood. International law and its strict application have been our armor and our shield in our determination to protect ourselves from this aggression. We remind this august assembly that the border between Guyana and Venezuela was fully, finally, and perfectly settled in an 1899 award by an international tribunal. Venezuela was fully represented in that tribunal, whose award it proclaimed in its own Congress and welcomed for more than 6 decades. Before reopening the issue on the eve of Guyana's independence, claiming 2/3 of our territory. This controversy, initiated by Venezuela, was submitted by Guyana to the International Court of Justice in accordance with a decision of the United Nations Secretary General and consistent with our position to settle this matter by legal and peaceful means. In 2023, in light of intensified acts of aggression by Venezuela, the ICJ issued provisional measures stating that, and I quote, pending a final decision in the case, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela shall refrain from taking any action which would modify the situation that currently prevails in the territory in dispute, whereby the Cooperative Republic of Guyana administers and exercises control over the area, end of quote. After years of refusing to participate in the proceedings of the ICJ and stating that it does not recognize the jurisdiction of the court, the Venezuelan government has now submitted a counter memorial to Guyana's submission. We welcome Venezuela's decision to participate in the court's proceedings and express the hope that Venezuela will accept the decision of the court, as Guyana has long pledged to do. I reaffirm Guyana's unwavering commitment to a peaceful resolution of this long-standing controversy in full conformity with international law and the principles set forth in the United Nations Charter. Madam President, peace, development, and human rights are pillars of the United Nations. We all aspire for a form of multilateralism that is equitable, inclusive, and ensures that no one is left behind. Women's participation in leadership in private and public sectors are integral to this. There is a growing movement in the developing world calling for the democratization of global political and economic relations. The disproportionate concentration of power favors a few powerful nations, whilst marginalizing the voices and concern of the broader international community. Developing countries are justly demanding more inclusive and representative decision-making processes in institutions and organs such as the UN Security Council, the World Bank, and the IMF. The World Trade Organization must also be reformed to ensure fairer trade for developing countries. These reforms must go beyond fair representation and ensure that the policies and practices of these institutions align with the developmental needs and aspirations of all countries. In the emerging global order, we must ensure the United Nations remains at the forefront of global governance. If multilateralism is to trump unilateralism, the UN's role as the world's foremost multilateral organization is pivotal. With the necessary resources and resolve, the UN can ensure a future of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity. The future we seek, a future where no one is left behind, demands courageous action. The UN must fulfill its role as the custodian of greater global peace, the foremost promoter of sustainable development, and an unflinching protector of human rights, human dignity, and international law. And since the UN is all of us, this body of nations, this is a collective responsibility for us all. Let us not be found wanting. Let us act together for the advancement of peace, for the achievement of sustainable development, and the preservation of human dignity.
So guys, I hope you have watched that interview from the president of Guyana, Ifran, and also you have listened to that powerful speech coming out and send a warning message to the Western country. So guys, you have seen the first video of an interview. The president of Guyana, he has come out and tell the Western country, you need to pay Africa their reparation because you guys, you did a lot of bad things to us black people. You need to pay black their reparation because of what you did towards to the black people during slavery. Up to date, we are having some of the families, they are having scars, they are having a memory of what happened to their ancestors, to what happened to their forefather, and they have stayed with that memory up to date. So for you guys, you need to pay reparation so that these people, they can cool their heart. By if you are not going to pay reparation, we as black people, we cannot easily forgive you for what you did during slavery. And that's why as black people, we are asking you guys to pay for the damage that you did to the black people. And I'm so proud seeing Ifran, the president of Guyana, coming out and without having fear, asking and telling these guys to pay black people their reparation, because this is one of the steps that Africans they will do so that they can forgive you because of what you did to them during slavery. And also, guys, it is not only paying slavery reparation. Also, these people, they are having a lot of our treasures thing in their museum. These people, they have kept the skeleton of our warriors, of our leaders in their museum. And also, when we black people, we are going to their country, they want us to pay so that we can see the things that belong to us. You can imagine, we have our treasures thing in their museum. We are having the skeleton and the memories of what happened during slavery to us black people. They want us to pay so that we can see. You can imagine, they're still generating money from us black people to see our things that they have kept in their museum. And that's why we are telling them that also, after paying slavery reparation, you need to return the things that you stole in Africa or to other countries in the Caribbean, because this is our things. These things belongs to us. You need to return the treasures thing. You need to return the skeleton of our warriors. You need to return the skeleton of our leaders back in Africa or in any other Caribbean, in any other black country that you stole, because you didn't do anything good to us black people. The slavery of black people, it was worse. You did worse thing to us black people. And that's why we keep on telling you guys that if you want us black people to forgive you, first of all, return our treasures thing, and also pay the reparation, pay for the damage that you caused to us black people. And also, guys, I really love the president of Guyana, because he is that one of the Caribbean leader. He is always defending the rights of the black people, and also he always defend the black countries in the Caribbean, because he has come out and sent a warning telling the Western countries that it is now the highest time to leave some of the black countries alone. We as black countries, we need to stand by our own. Why are you guys destabilizing some of our black country? You can see what it is happening in Haiti. Right now, Haitian people, they are fighting simply because the people who they were destroying their country, it was the Western people. The Western people, they were turning their leaders to be a puppet. They were turning Haiti leaders to be a sellout leaders. They were turning their leaders to be a corrupt leaders. The Haitian leaders, they were not working according to the will of the people. These people, they were being controlled with the Western country. And because of that, the Haitian people, they said we cannot take it anymore. They decided to come out on the street and fight for the bad governance. And that's why up to date, you can see all fight which is happening in Haiti. It is because of the Western people. These people, they were destabilizing Haiti. These people, they were taking all over. They were controlling Haiti. And that's why the Asian people, they are fighting back their country. And you can see the president of Guyana, he has come out and say, you need to keep off of the black countries. You need to leave these countries alone. This country, they need to stand by themselves. And also, guys, we have seen what it is happening in Africa. These people, they are calling Africa a third world country, but the same time, these people, they are the ones who are coming to Africa, taking our resources, taking our minerals. They are going with them to process our minerals, our resources in their country. By doing that, they're creating more jobs to their children. They are developing their country. They are opening hospitals with our resources here in Africa. And yet they're calling Africa is the poorest country. Africa, it is the thirdest country. And these people, they're the ones who are making Africa to be poor. And these people, they're the ones also who are turning our black leaders, our African leaders, to be puppet, to be a sellout leaders. So these people, they're the ones who are destabilizing, they are the ones who are killing our economy in black countries. So we as black people also, we need to wake up. The time it is now, we need to wake up, we need to fight back our country. We need to stop giving our resources to this Western country. These people, they did a lot of bad things to us black people. When we are asking for reparation, these people, they cannot pay us. They're telling us that, why are we paying you black people? And we are not the only ones who slaved you. So you guys, you did a lot of bad things to us. That's why we are asking for slavery reparation. Pay some of the African countries their slavery reparation. Also, some of the Caribbean countries like Jamaica, up to date, they are still asking for their reparation. We have so many countries in the Caribbean, you haven't paid their reparation. And you want to control them. You don't want to leave these countries alone. So for me, I can tell you that black people, we need to come together. We need to fight the things which it is ours. These people, they cannot do without Africa, without black people. We black people, we are the ones who build this Western country. We are the ones who build the United States. We are the ones who build at the UK, the Canada, all this Western country. It is us black people who we build it. And yet they are denying us to pay us our reparation. So we need to continue asking these people to pay our reparation, and also we need to stop them invading and destabilizing our Caribbean and African country. I really love to see some of the Caribbean country like Mia Montley. She's always fighting for the rights of the black people, and also she always defends the black countries in the Caribbean. We have Guyana president also. Ifran, you have seen sending out a powerful message to the Western country. These are the kind of leaders that we want today. The leaders who knows what they are doing. The leaders who will always fight the right of the black people without having any fear. Like here in Africa, we have Ibrahim Traore. Is that one leader in Africa that he has proven and he has shown African leaders the way that we can still do it without depending to this Western country. Ibrahim Traore, he has changed. He has changed some of the colonizers' things in his country. He has kicked out the colonizers' military in his country. So this is now what we need to do as African leaders. We need to come together and fight so that these people, they can leave our countries alone. So kindly guys, thank you so much. I don't want to talk too much. Subscribe if you haven't. Like this video, share, and also comment. See you on my next one. Bye bye.